Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to another Read Aloud. As you can see today, I'm sitting outside. It's a beautiful day outside. The sun is out. The skies are bluish. There's some clouds in the sky, but it's still a great day to be outside and just getting some fresh air. So I thought I'd take out the computer, set it up, and go ahead and do our Read Aloud outside today. With that being said, you will hear some cars driving by, so hopefully it won't be too bad. Hopefully the wind doesn't kick up too bad for the video. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started with our story today. Today's story is similar to one that we've already heard. It has similar points of the plot that happen in a different fairy tale. But this one was written in a different area. It's about a little girl who is sold into slavery and is not treated very well by the other servants that are around her. However, after a time, she finds favor with her master and is presented with a gift. This gift that is presented to her might just be the answer to all of her troubles. So as we listen to this story, this time I want you guys to listen for 3 different things. 1, listen for the parts that could have actually happened. Remember that stories do have a part of reality built within them. Things could have actually happened. What parts make it a fairy tale? What parts are contain things that just could not have happened in real life? And 3rd, what does this story remind you of? What other fairy tale does this one remind you of? And I'll ask you again at the end of this story if you guys can remember. All right. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started with our our story. The first thing, though, that we need to do is we need to go over a few vocabulary words that we're going to hear inside the story. The first word is cautiously. Cautiously is to act carefully, avoiding danger or risk. For example, the firefighter cautiously entered the burning building. The next word is scoured. Scoured means to search carefully for something. We scoured the room looking for the lost toy. Then we have the word revived. Revived means to become strong and healthy once again. Brett felt revived after drinking a glass of water after spending all day in the hot sun. Preferred. Preferred means to like something better than something else. I prefer to play in the snow than to play in the sand. And our last one is graceful. Graceful means to be showing a sense of elegance or sophistication. The queen was graceful when she entered the throne room. All right, so let's go ahead and listen to our story. Let me share it with you real quick. And our story is The Girl with the Red Shoes.
A long time ago in ancient Egypt, there lived a beautiful young girl named Radames. Radames was a slave. She had been born in Greece, but had been kidnapped by pirates. The pirates had sold the young girl to a rich Egyptian merchant. Radames now worked as a servant in his house. Because Radames was from another land, she did not look like the other servants or her master. Whereas they had dark hair and dark eyes, she had golden curls and green eyes. No amount of brushing would straighten those curls. The other servants teased Radames. They also made her work even harder than they did. She had to get up before the sun rose, and she had to work while the stars twinkled in the night sky. She cleaned her master's house, she baked the bread, she washed her master's clothes, she sewed, and she even tended to the garden. Radames lived a lonely life. The other servants wanted nothing to do with her, and her master, though kind, spent his time either sleeping in the warm sunshine or conducting business. Over time, the animals became her friends. Radames chatted with the birds that nested in the lemon and lime trees that she tended. She told her troubles to the great white egrets, and she teased the red-tailed dragonflies. However, her best friend in the whole world was a hippopotamus. Whenever she went to the Nile River to wash her master's clothes, one particular hippo would come to the edge of the river. It would wallow in the water near her and keep her company while she worked. The hippo would look at her with its big round eyes. Its ears would flicker whenever she spoke. Sometimes they would play together. Rhodopis would splash the water in Hippo's direction. The hippo would sink down under the water and then reappear close by. One day, while picking lemons from the lemon trees in the garden, Rhodopis heard music coming from her master's house. She placed her basket on the ground and began to dance to the music. She moved gracefully like a ballerina. Rhodopis danced in the warm sunshine. As she danced, her master woke up from a long nap. As he stretched and yawned, he looked around the garden. He spotted Rhodopis dancing to the music. Rhodopis moved so elegantly that her master watched her for some time. After a while, he thought to himself that this beautiful young girl who danced like a butterfly deserved some elegant shoes to adorn her bare feet.
What do you think that it looks like when she's dancing like a butterfly? We can kind of see in this picture where her hands are and where her feet are, but how do you think she's dancing? Go ahead. I know I paused it real quick. You can pause my video as well. Why don't you guys go try to dance like a butterfly right now? What would that look like? Would it be slow and moving, or would it be fast and chopping?
The next day, he went to his own shoemaker and asked him to make a pair of red silk dancing slippers. The soles of the slippers were to be made of the very finest leather. Several days later, the shoes arrived and Rhodopis' master presented them to her as a gift. Rhodopis was speechless. Rhodopis loved her slippers. The other servants were jealous that she had been given such an exquisite gift. They treated her even more horribly than before. This made Rhodopis very sad. Whenever she could, she would cautiously sneak off into the garden, put on her red slippers, and dance.
Why did she need to move cautiously? Remember, cautiously means to move to try to keep away from risk. So why was she cautiously sneaking out to dance? What was she worried about?
But often she danced at night beneath the sparkling stars, when everyone else was asleep. One day, Rhodopis' master was informed that the pharaoh, Amasis, had decided to hold a grand banquet at his royal palace in Memphis. All of his subjects were invited, even the servants. Rhodopis was so excited, however, she quickly learned the other servants had no intention of letting her go. Instead, they gave her piles of laundry to do and warned her that they had better all be done by the time they returned. As the servants prepared to depart, Rhodopis carried the huge pile of laundry down to the river. Rhodopis worked for several hours, washing and scrubbing the clothes. Her faithful friend, the hippo, kept her company. The hippo always cheered up Rhodopis. And so, after a while, Rhodopis' spirits were revived.
I'll pause it real quick while that truck goes away.
To play with the hippo. As Rhodopis cheerfully splashed the hippo, it suddenly moved, ducked down beneath the water.
Right here, we hear the word ducked. Now, in this story, the word ducked means one thing. However, it's what we call a multiple meaning word, because we can have a duck, an animal that you see that sometimes swims on water and we see on land sometimes, like Donald Duck and Daffy Duck. Or we can have it where you duck when something's coming at you, or in this case, it's ducking to go underneath the water. So this is an example of a multiple meaning word. It wouldn't make sense if I said that the hippo ducked under the water to mean that it turned into a duck. It's still a hippo, it's just going underneath the water. So when thinking about those different definitions, we have to think which one fits the sentence and the story that it goes with.
Then it reappeared quite suddenly right beside Rhodopis. As the hippo lifted its large head, it created a wave of water that cascaded down upon Rhodopis. She was drenched, So too were her beautiful slippers. Radames sighed and scratched the hippo's head. Then she took off her slippers and placed them on the rock to dry. After that, she continued with her work. She did not even stop to eat. After a long while, Radames finished washing all the clothes. By now, her back and arms were aching, but she was happy to be done. Just as she was about to put on her red slippers, she heard the flapping of wings. In an instant, one of her slippers was gone. From out of the darkening sky, a falcon had swooped down and stolen it. Radames gasped out loud. She was certain that the falcon was actually the god Horus. It was a sign of something, but of what, she did not know. There was nothing Radames could do. She put her one remaining slipper in her pocket and returned to her master's house in her bare feet. Meanwhile, at the royal palace, an enormous crowd had gathered. The crowd was enjoying the festivities. Pharaoh Amasis looked on from his raised throne in the banquet hall. Although he was happy to see his subjects enjoying themselves, he preferred to be hunting. As Amasis did not have a wife or children, he spent most of his spare time hunting with his friends. As the day wore on, Amasis grew restless. He was just about to sneak away from the banquet when a great falcon swooped down and dropped a small red slipper at his feet. Amasis picked up the small slipper and stared at it. He was certain that the god Horus had sent him a message. Amasis thought for a while. Then he summoned his advisors. He had decided that the god Horus was telling him that the owner of the red slipper would be his wife. The banquet was halted, and an announcement was made that the pharaoh himself would search the land for the owner of the red slipper. The guests slowly began to leave. Now Radames' master had already left the palace. He had gone off to take care of some business, and so he had not heard the announcement. His servants, however, had. Together they decided that they would not breathe a word to Radames. As the weeks went by, the pharaoh scoured the land for his future wife. He searched by the land and by water, but he was unsuccessful. At last, his search brought him by royal barge to a region in the northern part of his kingdom. Radames was washing clothes in the river as the royal barge appeared in the distance. The other servants saw it, too, and knew immediately what it meant. As the barge neared the bank of the river, the royal trumpeters sounded the pharaoh's arrival. Immediately, the servants ordered Radames to hide herself in the reeds, as she was, they told her, too lowly a servant to be in the presence of the pharaoh.
So what that means is that the servants told Radames that she was not good enough to be in the presence of the pharaoh, that she didn't rank enough. So how do you think that made Radames feel to be told, you're not good enough, you can't be around this person, you're too low down, you don't matter as much? How do you think that made her feel?
With a red slipper in hand, Amasis stepped off the royal barge. Upon seeing the slipper, the female servants elbowed each other out of the way, all wanting to be the first to try it on. As this was happening, Radames peeked out from the reeds. She wanted to see the pharaoh's face. As she peeked out, Amasis spotted her. He stared at the beautiful girl for several moments, and Radames' heart skipped a beat. Amasis asked Radames to step forward, and then he placed her tiny foot inside the red slipper. As he did so, it was clear to all that she was the owner of the slipper. The other servants were horrified that she would be the pharaoh's queen, but the master gave his blessing. Together, Amasis and Radames sailed away on the royal barge, with its purple sails fluttering in the gentle breeze that blew across the Nile River. Behind the barge swam Radames' best friend and honored wedding guest. The end.
Now, did you guys pick up on what story this is similar to? We had a girl treated not so kindly by the other people around her. Someone comes that treats her well, gives her a special gift. She loses part of this gift. A person of royalty goes in search of the person who fits the shoe. And then when that person finds the person that they're looking for, the person of royalty and the girl who lost the shoe get married and live happily ever after. What story does that remind you of? Cinderella? Probably right. We have Cinderella who loses her shoe, marries the prince when it's returned. So it is a similar story. However, this story, like it talks about, takes place in Egypt. We hear, because of it taking place in Egypt, we do hear about the god Horus. Now, just because we hear a reference to a god does not make this a myth. Remember, a myth normally tries to explain how things happen. It might tell a story, but it involves the gods. In this case, they're just mentioning the name, and the pharaoh and Radames both believe that this might be a sign from the god Horus. But it is not a myth. It is not about the gods or anything like that. Okay? So now that we have finished listening to the story, I want you to gather around with your family, and I want you guys to take a look at our questions for today, and you guys are going to discuss it as a family. Okay, so first I want you guys to try to retell the story. Those kids that are littler, try to tell me what happened. What happened first, second, third. Keep on going with the story and try to retell the story the best you can. Older kids, I want you guys to summarize the story. Tell me what happened in your own words. Remember, it does not have to be the whole story in a summary. Once you get done with that, then we can go and have our discussion about the questions. The first question is, how did Radames treat the people and animals around her? This is kind of important with her, who she is as a character. Just like Cinderella, she's treated badly by the people around her. But how does she treat those people? How does she treat the animals? Does she treat them the same way, or does she treat them differently? How does Radames show herself being graceful while she danced? Again, how does the dancing show her elegance? What do you think that would look like? Remember how both it describes how she does, but it also describes what her master sees, and how it describes her dancing when her master sees it. And finally, how would you have felt if you were Radames at the beginning of the story? So when she's gotten kidnapped and put into slavery, in the middle of the story, so when she's being treated poorly by the other servants, but also when she finds favor with her master, and what about at the end of the story? How do her feelings change? Or maybe they stay the same, but they just might develop a little bit more. After you've gotten done with the discussion, you guys can go ahead and look at our writing portion. We're going to use the text structure, faith in spite of experiences. And what I want you guys to do is we're going to pretend that we're Radames, and we're going to examine how she feels even after she is mistreated by the other servants. You're going to write a conversation between her and the hippopotamus. I know some people talk to their animals, they talk to their pets and everything. So it would make sense for her to kind of talk to the hippopotamus. So I want you guys to discuss what they would discuss if she were to talk to it. And you're going to use the text structure down here. Despite this repeated bad thing happening, what is happening to her over and over again that is a bad thing? What does she know? So I know that this. What is something she knows? Even though this is happening, she has this belief. And what is she going to do? So I will do this. What is she going to either change doing, continue to do, or maybe start doing? Okay? And you're going to write this, like I said, as a conversation. So you can pretend that the hippo is asking the questions and Radames is answering it to it. Again, that page will be in the comment in the description below. I still would love to hear you guys sharing your writings. So if you want to type them out and put them into the description, I'd love to read them. And if we get some of them, we will share them with you guys. Remember, we are all in this together. And I will see you guys later. Have a great day. Enjoy the outside, get some fresh air and breathe. But remember to keep your distance. Have a great day, guys.